Longhorn fans, it's time to get your horns up. Play the Texas Lottery today for your chance to win exciting prizes. And remember, luck happens to people like Jason Firking, who keep a lookout for chances to win from the Texas Lottery. Jason won Longhorn prizes and Texas Lottery scratch tickets. Hook 'em horns and scratch 'em tickets. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly. How about a nice Longhorn welcome for lifetime Longhorn Michael Huff? Now, Mike is not only a lifetime Longhorn, he is also the Assistant Director of Player Development for Coach Sark. So those of us who are older heads remember your playing days, first as a Nimitz Viking in Irving, and then as a Longhorn as well, and the defensive MVP of the Rose Bowl National Championship. So it's good to see you here. And how you liking being an Assistant Director of Player Development?
I love it because obviously this is home. You know, my blood, sweat, and tears are on that field, and you know those guys in that locker room on the field. Like I've been through kind of everything they've been through, and I can kind of guide them and kind of hopefully steer them in good directions. And the main thing when I realized kind of what role I had, I was in the locker room with Bijan, and we were talking about it's kind of life, football things, and a bunch of other guys came in. And they're like, oh, what's your title? What's your job? And I was like, oh, Assistant Director of Player Development. And then Bijan looked at me and he's like, tell him the truth. I was like, I just told him the truth. He's like, no, they pay you to be Michael Huff. and that's when it truly hit me that, kind of my role is bigger than just Assistant Director of Player Development. It's to kind of be big brother and kind of show them the ways, and like so they know I've been there and I've done everything they want to do. So it's just me being myself around them and them knowing that they can always trust me. And if I tell them something that was genuine, like it's just coming from me, and there's no egos, nothing like that. It's just to help them be the best player they can be on and off the field. That's
you kind of answered the question. I wanted to get both of you to talk about this. First of all, Sark, as the head football coach of this program, what do you see out of that position, whether it was Mike or anybody else, out of that Assistant Director of Player Development? And then you kind of answered it about what you see as your role, but I wanted to give you a chance to expand on it. But first, Sark.
I think this. Every kid that comes to the University of Texas to play football here aspires to ultimately have the career and the life that Michael Huff has, right? When you think about he comes here, he's a national champion, he's an All-American, he's a Thorpe Award winner. He's a first-round draft pick. He's a great father. He gives back to his community. And so if there's anything to model for our guys when they get here of, hey, this is what should be the ultimate goal, here it is. And by the way, you have direct access to him every day. So whether we're at 6 a.m. workouts, Michael Huff's there watching our guys run on the field. Whether it's in the locker room in pregame. Whether it's, hey, a guy who's going through an injury. He's been through injuries. Like, he's a great sounding board, but also something to strive for of what it looks like and maybe how I want what he has, and then, okay, how do I do that?
And Mike, you also, you mentioned about kind of being a father confessor of sorts to the players, but you also see your role as a guy who has to kind of pick them up a little bit if they're down or if they need a little bit of a emotional nudge from you a little bit to get their own game, because you can see them at a higher level that maybe that they don't see themselves at times.
Oh yeah, and definitely because I can see things differently than, let's say, they do, or differently than a coach can. Like say if Sark gave them one message and I can see how they took it. So I would kind of take, let's say, Bijan or just whoever X and kind of sit them down and like, okay, no, this is how this is what Sark meant. Like I said, this is kind of how he sees things. This is what you need to do. So for me, it's more being the middleman between Sark and the players, and them always looking at me as more of a big brother figure than a coach figure. So that's one thing, main things that I wanted to kind of strive for and be here for, is to be more of a big brother than be a coach. So for when Bijan said, okay, they pay you to be Michael Huff, like that truly hit me. Like, okay, the guys get it, the players get it, that I'm not up here. Like, I'm right here. My office is right there, and I hear the loud music every day, all day, and hear them laughing, talking, joking, and like I say, I'll go in there and just be in the locker room and kind of just sit with them. Like, so nothing, it doesn't even have to be anything about life. It just, okay, whatever's going on at that moment, like, I'll be here for them. So I think they know it.
I think from my perspective, something that is good to know. At the end of the day, I'm the head coach, and I do everything in my power to have this great connection with our players. But inevitably, there's going to be things that they don't want to talk to me about. There's going to be things they don't want to talk to their position coach about or the strength coach about. But those same things, they'll talk to Michael Huff about, right? And they have that trust with him now that I think is invaluable for our program. Not to mention, this guy has the best shoe game. I'm a big shoe guy, Craig. You know this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this guy has the best shoe game in Austin, probably in the state of Texas. I mean, if there's a shoe, he has it, and he gets it. So the players, what's he got on today? What's Huff got on today? They want to see see the shoes and what he's got going.
You know, there was one of your contemporaries as a student athlete at the University of Texas had one of the best shoe games I've ever saw, and that was P.J. Tucker.
Yes.
When he was playing basketball, and still has a big shoe game. Did the two of you? Did you have that going on back then in the 2000 aughts in 04, 05?
See, back then I couldn't afford it. We didn't have NIL back then.
That's a good point.
I couldn't afford all these shoes back then, so I had kind of all the shoes plastered all around my dorm room. It was okay, I want that shoe, that shoe, that shoe, that shoe at some point. So when I finally made it to the NFL and I had the money to create a business, so I bought a business and bought a shoe store because I knew I loved shoes and I wanted to get in that kind of that passion somehow, some way. So the moment I got drafted, I got with my business partner. We bought a shoe store, and it's been there since 2007 now, and been successful because obviously everybody loves shoes, so shoes aren't going anywhere. Whether it's COVID, whether it's this, whether it's that, people have to buy shoes. So that's one of those things that it's been successful, and I just love shoes.
So you passed on the idea of owning an IHOP? Because I remember that the famous interview where you said you liked IHOP, you wanted to own one because you love pancakes and shrimp.
I love and I wanted to change the name, so instead of International House of Pancakes, I turned to International Huff of Pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
I had the whole thing in my head, ready to go, but then I got drafted, and my agent and financial advisor was like, yeah, that's not a good idea. Like, you shouldn't do it. I was like, okay, I guess I'll see you this time. But that was my shrimp pancakes and my milkshake kind of got me through college.
I love it. Hey, I want to shift gears on something else that I know is becoming a passion, at least of your daughters, and now you're into, is horses and equestrian, and take us through that a little bit and how we're buying horses now. What's going on there?
I'll start off by giving a PSA. So let's say if your child is 4 or 5, 6, and you think it's cute for a summer camp to get them to ride horses, never do it. Because my daughter, she was 5, and like, there's a BK riding center right around the corner from us. It's like, she'll be cute for her to go out there and ride horses for a weekend. And she got on when she was 5 and hadn't got off since. She's 11 now. But, I mean, she loves it. She loves animals. She loves being on it. And you definitely see just the growth and maturity she's had because she has to take care of the horse and groom it and, clean up the poop and, like I say, walk it. And we're out there 6 days a week. So she's definitely all in. And I just see the love and the passion she has for animals. And it's the most expensive sport ever, so that's why I was ready to retire about 4 or 5 years ago, but then she started riding horses. I was like, Sarka, I need you for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So.
Michael Huff is our special guest. We'll continue here from Plucker's West Campus location when Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark continues in a moment. First down, quick swing pass out to Worthy to the 40. Makes a man miss down the sidelines. 30, 20. Say goodnight to it. It's Xavier Worthy in for the touchdown. 44 yards. And the Longhorns are back in front. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark. Our special guest, Assistant Director of Player Development, lifetime Longhorn, Michael Huff. How many guys did you have to cover in your time that had the speed of Xavier Worthy?
None. X is special. And he gives me a hard time every day because I brag that I was one of the fastest ones on defense back when I played, and X is just different. Like, he's one of those speeds that you just can't coach. Like, there's no okay, I can develop him, I can get him there. Like, X came in fast, he's going to leave fast, he's going to run fast. Like, that's just who he is. So that speed is just something that you can't really prepare for. And then when you're a DB playing against it, it's like, okay, you see him on film running by people, but you truly don't know how fast he is until you line up in front of him. It's like, oh, he's fast.
Yeah. What's interesting about him, too, is he can get to top speed quickly, very quickly, and he never looks like he's running hard. Even on the touchdown the other night down the sidelines, it was kind of like he just glided, I need to go this fast to get by him. And here comes the next guy, and I'll kick into one more gear to get by him. But I don't even know if he was running full speed.
That's amazing.
Which was amazing, like how fast he was compared to everybody else.
I think he was measured like at 21 miles per hour or something like that. This is amazing stuff. All right, I've got to ask you, I'm told that also, we're talking about a guy who spent 8 years in the National Football League, was All-Pro in 2010, who's on the ballot for both the College Football Hall of Fame and the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame. And this thing about an alter ego, Eugene Banks, can you explain that?
So Eugene is my alter ego because he's one of those things that, like, I'm more off the field. I'm an introvert. Like, I'm quiet. Like, I'm kind of just to myself. In the dorm. Like, when I was in college, I didn't go out. I didn't do anything. I was in my dorm room watching movies, playing video games. So for me to kind of channel and turn on another gear, like when I got to the games, like I had to create an alter ego in my head, and kind of that was Eugene Banks. And even today, it's still, if I'm going into a business meeting, like say if I'm pitching an idea, pitching a deck or anything, like I just have to go into a different space and be a different guy. And I feel like when you're playing football, especially at a high level, like when you step in between those white lines, like you have to have something different. Like even if I was y'all, like even if I was you in the booth, like I'd find, let me see what your name would be. I know you communicate. You communicate very well. You're very articulate. So I'd probably call you like Art, like for articulate.
Art, okay.
So that would probably be your name. Like just something simple, something okay. I can remember. I can go in the booth. I can call this game and be different. And then for Sark, it'd have to be. Ooh, I got it. I'd call you Nitro.
Nitro. I like nitro.
Nitrous oxide, like it's a gas. So obviously, we're all gas, no brakes. So you'd be Nitro.
Like
that would be your name. So next time when we go out there.
Next week, it'll be the Art and Nitro combination. That's right. Here on that kind of thing. You, all the accolades and honors and things like that. What is the most important thing that you think you can impart to Longhorn football players now?
For me, it's leaving a legacy off the field. Because obviously everybody plays, sports growing up and they do all that. But at some point, football, sports, whatever you're into, it's going to end. And for me, it was 30. So, okay, at 30, football's over. Like, that whole side of things is over. So, okay, how do I create a legacy? How do I leave a lasting impact on my community, on life, everybody that I've, talked to, read? So for me, it's more than awards. It's just creating a legacy, creating something that's lasting forever. So even when I'm, dead and gone, my daughters are here. Like I still have all the community service I've done. Like say if I've impacted, this 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old growing up in Irving, Texas, and he sees, Michael Huff, and okay, I want to be that guy one day. So just for me, it's just leaving a lasting legacy and impression just on the world and leave it better than I found it.
Well, I think without a doubt, you're so active community service-wise and all that you do. But I also know you had a great relationship with your position coach in college, Coach Dwayne Aquina. And I know that when you won the Thorpe Award, I think you had a replica made to give to him. And if you could talk a little bit about the impact of the mentors, right, that we all have in life, and then like that relationship and what that means to you. I think Longhorn fans would love to hear that.
Yeah, definitely Coach Aquina. I wouldn't be here today without Coach Aquina, as far as on and off the field. Just seeing how he operated as a coach, as a husband, as a father, just all those things he instilled in us. And it was bigger than football with him. Like he just taught us life, and that's one of the things that I respected most. Because obviously all coaches want to teach you football, because kind of that's what their job, relies on. And that's kind of how they make money, how they take care of their families. But for him, is like he wanted to get off the field, and he knew each guy had different buttons. Like my buttons were different than Michael Griffin's buttons, Griff's buttons were different than Vince Young's buttons. So whoever it was, so he took time to, okay, let me sit down and figure out my players, my guys, because they're all different. And, if they have something going on at home, okay, I want to know what's going on at home. Like, we can talk football later. That's the easy part. So okay, how's mom? How's dad? How's your aunt? Is somebody sick? So for me, it was just how much he invested in us off the field, which truly just kind of, just made the impact even better, and maybe want to play for him, run through a wall for him. I mean, don't get me wrong, like he cussed me out some days. And,
I believe that.
Some days after practice, I had to go down to the sled and to the pits because I didn't want to tackle this week. So he was definitely hard on us, but I knew at the end of the day, like he wanted the best out of me on and off the field. So I was ready to run through a wall for him.
Well, and it shows as well. Michael Huff with us here tonight. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, Sark and I will talk about Nitro and I will talk about the Baylor Bears when Longhorn Weekly continues on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield.